The stars were quiet in the outer edge of the solar system. Too quiet for Commander Vextar's liking. His ship, the Void Whisper, drifted silently through space with 11 other vessels from the Galactic Hegemony. They had come to investigate. Reports of a new species that had somehow developed faster than light travel. Vextar's reptilian eyes studied the data screens. His people, the Salthak, had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They knew every species, every technology, every threat. Nothing surprised them anymore. But these new creatures called humans were different. They had appeared from nowhere with ships that moved between stars. "Commander," his science officer Krell Nath called out, "we have detected the unknown vessel. It appears to be waiting for us." Vextar looked at the main screen. There it was, a strange ship unlike anything in their databases. It was dark gray and covered in what looked like armor plating. Strange symbols were painted on its side. The ship looked dangerous, even, when sitting still. "Size?" Vexitar asked. "Approximately 800 meters long. Much smaller than our ships," Krellnath replied. "Power readings are unusual." "Unusual how?" "The readings keep changing. Our sensors cannot get a clear measurement." Vexitar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. These primitives probably had unstable technology. It would make conquering them easier. The Galactic Hegemony had a simple rule. New species could join peacefully or be forced to join. Either way, they would join. On the human ship Indomitable, Captain Jiho stood on the bridge, watching the alien fleet approach. She was a small woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was simple and practical, dark blue with captain's bars on her shoulders. 12 ships, reported Soman from the tactical station. All bigger than us. Energy signatures show advanced technology. Jiho nodded. Earth's scientists had predicted this. Humanity's first journey to another star system would eventually bring contact with alien species. The question was whether they would be friendly or hostile. "Any word from Admiral Minho?" Jiho asked. Taehyun, the communications officer, shook his head. "We're too far from Earth, but our orders are clear. Establish peaceful contact if possible, defend ourselves if necessary." Jiho looked around her bridge. Her crew was small but experienced. Hyerin sat at the engineering station, monitoring the ship's 3 fusion reactors. Dongwu was at weapons control, his hands resting near the firing controls. Nari stood ready at the medical station. The Indomitable was Earth's first real warship designed for space combat. It carried the best technology humanity could build. Railguns, nuclear missiles, particle beam weapons, and armor thick enough to stop asteroid impacts. Every system was built for one purpose: to fight and win against unknown enemies. "Incoming transmission," Taehyun announced. The main screen flickered and showed Commander Vextar's face. His yellow eyes stared at them with obvious superiority. When he spoke, the computer translated his words into English. "Unknown vessel. You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Hegemony. I am Commander Vextar of the Salthak Empire. You will surrender your ship immediately and prepare to be boarded." Jiho stepped forward. "This is Captain Jiho of the Earth ship Indomitable. We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations with your people." Vextar laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Diplomacy? You are a primitive species that has barely learned to leave your home planet. You have no right to negotiate with your superiors. Surrender now or face the consequences." "I'm afraid that's not acceptable," Jiho replied calmly. "We're willing to talk, but we won't surrender. Earth doesn't bow to threats." The alien commander's expression darkened. "You dare refuse the Galactic Hegemony? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your pitiful ship cannot stand against our fleet." "Maybe not," Jiho said. "But we didn't come out here to give up at the first sign of trouble. If you want to talk, we'll talk. If you want to fight, we'll fight. Your choice." Vextar cut the transmission. On his bridge, he turned to his tactical officer. "Begin standard intimidation formation. Surround the primitive vessel. Show them the power of the hegemony." The 11 alien ships moved to encircle the Indomitable. Each ship was at least twice the size of the human vessel. Their hulls gleamed with advanced materials that could deflect energy weapons. Powerful engines that bent space itself moved them into position. "They're trying to surround us," Salman reported. "Let them," Jiho said. "Hyerin, how are our reactors?" "All three running at normal levels," the chief engineer replied. "I can push them to 150% if needed." "Dongwu, weapons." "Status?" "All systems ready," the weapons officer said. "Railguns loaded, missiles armed, point defense active." Jiho nodded. The Indomitable was ready for whatever came next. Humanity had learned hard lessons during their long history of war. Never surrender without a fight. Never trust an enemy who demands your submission. Never back down from a bully. On the alien flagship, Krelnath was running deep scans on the human ship. What he found confused him. The vessel's power source appeared to be nuclear fusion, an ancient technology that most species abandoned thousands of years ago as too dangerous. The weapons showed similar primitive designs. "Commander," he called out, "the scan results are ready." "Show me," Vextar ordered. The data appeared on the main screen. Vextar studied it with growing confusion. Nuclear reactors for power, kinetic, weapons that fired solid projectiles, chemical rockets for maneuvering, explosive warheads filled with radioactive material. "This makes no sense," Vextar said. "Why would any species continue using such dangerous technology?" "Perhaps they are too primitive to develop safer alternatives," Krelnath suggested. "Or perhaps they never needed to," another voice said. Fleet Admiral Zeth Kara appeared on a communication screen. She had been monitoring the encounter from the hegemony capital. "Commander, be careful. A species that still uses such weapons may be more dangerous than they appear." "Dangerous?" Vextar laughed. "Admiral, they have one. Small ship against our entire fleet. What threat could they possibly pose?" "Unknown," the Admiral replied. "But consider this. They developed faster-than-light travel while still using nuclear weapons. That suggests a very different path of technological development." Vextar dismissed her concerns. "With respect, Admiral, I have the situation under control. These primitives will surrender once they see our power." He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot across their bow. Show them what hegemony plasma cannons can do." A brilliant blue beam lanced out from the flagship's main gun. It streaked past the Indomitable's hull, missing by only a few hundred meters. The energy was so intense it would have vaporized any normal asteroid. On the human bridge, alarms sounded briefly as the plasma bolt passed by. "That was their warning shot," Taehyun reported. "They're demanding immediate surrender." Jiho looked at her crew. Each face showed determination rather than fear. They were Earth's finest, volunteers who had trained for years for this moment. They understood what was at stake. "Well," Jiho said quietly, "I guess talking is over." She looked at Dongwu. "They want to see what our weapons can do? Show them a human warning shot." Dongwu's fingers moved over his controls. "Railgun 1 ready. Target selected. Empty space off their starboard bow." Fire. The railgun fired with a sound like thunder. A tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole shot from the ship at incredible speed. It passed through the space near the alien flagship and continued on into the darkness of space. The aliens barely noticed it. To them, it looked like the humans had fired a simple metal projectile, something their ancestors might have used thousands of years ago. They had no idea they had just witnessed a demonstration of weapons technology that could punch through any armor in the galaxy. "Is that the best they can do?" Vextar laughed. "A primitive kinetic weapon? Our shields could stop 1,000 such projectiles." But Admiral Zethkara, watching from her command center, felt a chill run down her spine. She had noticed something the others missed. The human projectile had been moving at nearly 10% of light speed. No species in the galaxy used kinetic weapons at such velocities. It was considered impossible to control and far too dangerous. "Commander Vextar," she transmitted urgently, "I'm ordering you to withdraw immediately." "Withdraw?" Vextar was outraged. "From one primitive ship? I will not show such weakness." "That's an order, Commander." But Vextar had already made his decision. His pride would not allow retreat from such inferior opponents. He turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, target the human vessel. Fire at will. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. Science Officer Krellnath stared at his instruments in complete confusion. The readings made no sense. Every time he tried to scan the human vessel, the numbers changed. Power output fluctuated wildly. Energy signatures shifted constantly. His most advanced sensors could not get stable measurements. "Commander," he called out nervously, "these scan results, they're impossible." Vextar was busy positioning his fleet for attack. "What do you mean, impossible?" "Their power system shows nuclear fusion, but the energy output keeps spiking beyond safe levels. Our computers say their reactors should have exploded by now. Probably broken sensors on a primitive ship," Vextar replied dismissively. But Krellnath was not convinced. He had been studying alien technology for 50 years. He had scanned thousands of ships from hundreds of different species. Nothing had ever confused his instruments like this. On the human ship, Chief Engineer Hyeron sat calmly at her station. Her 3 fusion reactors were running perfectly. The fluctuating readings the aliens detected were not from malfunction, they were from design. Human reactors were built to vary their output based on demand. When the ship needed more power, the reactors provided it instantly. "Reactor output at 70%, she reported to Captain Jiho. "All systems stable. Can you give us more power if we need it?" "I can push all 3 reactors to 180% for short periods, maybe 200% in an emergency." Jiho nodded. The aliens would never understand that human engineering was built for war, not efficiency. Every system could be pushed beyond its normal limits when survival was at stake. Krellnath continued his scans, growing more worried with each reading. The human weapons were equally confusing. The ship carried projectile weapons that fired solid metal at incredible speeds, chemical explosives, nuclear warheads, even primitive missile systems. Why would any advanced species use such weapons? He wondered aloud. His assistant, a young Saltac named Gentar, looked over the data. Perhaps they never learned better methods? Or perhaps, Krellnath said slowly, they never needed to learn better methods. The galactic hegemony had spent thousands of years perfecting energy weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt through any armor, particle beams that disrupted matter at the atomic level, force fields that could deflect any energy attack. Everything was clean, precise, and civilized, but the humans had taken a different path. Instead of abandoning projectile weapons, they had perfected them. Instead of making explosives safer, they had made them more powerful. Instead of replacing nuclear technology, they had learned to control it perfectly. Krellnath realized he was looking at a species that had never stopped improving their most dangerous technologies. While the galaxy moved toward safer alternatives, humans had spent thousands of years making weapons of mass destruction more effective. "Commander," he said urgently, "I recommend extreme caution. This species may be more dangerous than we assumed." "Dangerous?" Vextar laughed. "They have 1 ship. We have 12. Their weapons are primitive. Our technology is advanced. What could possibly go wrong?" But Admiral Zeth Kara, still monitoring from the capital, was studying the same scan data. She had access to more complete information than the field commander. What she saw terrified her. The human ship was not just armed with primitive weapons. It was armed with optimized primitive weapons. Every system showed signs of continuous improvement over many generations. The railguns could fire projectiles at nearly light speed. The nuclear warheads were designed for maximum armor penetration. The ship's structure was built to survive damage that would destroy any normal vessel. "All ships in the sector," she transmitted on emergency channels. "This is Fleet Admiral Zeth Kara. Any vessel encountering human technology is ordered to withdraw immediately and report to Sector Command." But her message would arrive too late. On the Indomitable, Weapons Officer Dongwu was running final checks on all systems. His railguns were loaded with tungsten penetrator rounds. His missile tubes held nuclear-tipped warheads. His point defense. Cannons were ready to shoot down incoming projectiles. "Weapons status?" Captain Jiho asked. "All systems ready," Dongwu replied. "But Captain, I should warn you, our weapons are designed to fight other human ships. Against alien technology, I'm not sure how effective they'll be." "We'll find out soon enough," Jiho said. She was wrong about one thing. Human weapons had been designed to fight human ships, ships with the toughest armor and strongest shields humanity could build. They were designed to punch through force fields, penetrate thick armor, and destroy heavily defended targets. The aliens had built their defenses to stop energy weapons. Their shields deflected plasma beams and particle cannons. Their armor absorbed heat and radiation. Their ships were designed to fight other civilized species who used civilized weapons. None of them had ever faced weapons designed by a species that still remembered how to kill. Communications Officer Tae-hyun was monitoring alien transmissions. "Captain, I'm picking up increased chatter between their ships. They seem to be discussing our weapon systems." "What are they saying?" "It's hard to translate, but they seem confused. They keep using words that translate to impossible and dangerous." Medical Officer Nari checked her equipment one final time. Her medical bay was designed to treat combat injuries, something most alien species had not experienced in thousands of years. She had surgical tools for removing shrapnel, drugs to treat radiation poisoning, and life support systems that could keep a human alive even with massive trauma. The aliens had medical technology that could cure diseases and extend life, but they had no experience treating battle wounds. Their bodies, evolved in peaceful societies for millennia, were not built to survive the kind of damage human weapons could inflict. Tactical Officer Soman studied the alien formation. "Captain, they're moving to surround us. Standard intimidation, tactic. They want us to feel overwhelmed. How do you want to respond?" "Let them surround us," Jiho said calmly. "In space, being surrounded just means you have targets in all directions." This was pure human military thinking. For thousands of years, human armies had faced superior numbers and won through superior tactics, better weapons, and sheer determination. Being outnumbered was normal. Fighting against impossible odds was just another day at the office. The alien fleet completed their encirclement. 12 massive ships surrounded the single human vessel. Energy weapons powered up. Plasma cannons began charging. Force fields activated to maximum strength. Commander Vextar felt confident. "One last chance," he transmitted to the human ship. "Surrender now or be destroyed." Captain Jiho's response was calm and clear. "This is humanity's answer to your demands." The transmission cut off. Vextar smiled and turned to his weapons officer. "All ships, open fire. Destroy the primitive vessel." 12. Plasma cannons fired simultaneously. Brilliant energy beams converged on the Indomitable from all directions. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon, but the human ship did not vaporize. Its armor absorbed the plasma strikes with barely visible damage. Its force fields, designed by engineers who understood that shields fail, deflected what they could and let the ship's structure handle the rest. "Impossible!" Vexitar shouted. "How did they survive that barrage?" Krelnath checked his readings again. "Commander, their armor appears to be designed specifically to absorb energy weapons, and their force fields are not like ours. They seem to be designed to fail gradually, rather than all at once." "What does that mean?" "It means they built their defenses expecting to be hit. Our shields either work perfectly or fail completely. Theirs are designed to keep working even when damaged. On the human bridge, Hyerin reported minimal damage. Hull temperature elevated but within acceptable limits. Armor integrity at 95%. All shields holding. Return fire," Captain Jiho ordered quietly. What happened next would change the course of galactic history forever. Dongwu selected his first target, the alien flagship. His railgun fired a single tungsten penetrator round. The projectile shot from the ship at 10% of light speed, crossing the distance to the alien vessel in milliseconds. The alien ship's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and particle beams, offered no resistance to solid matter moving at relativistic velocity. The tungsten rod passed through the force field as if it did not exist. It struck the ship's hull and kept going, punching through advanced armor like it was paper. The projectile continued through the ship's interior, destroying everything in its path. It exited through the opposite hull and continued into space, carrying pieces of the alien vessel with it. Commander Vextar watched in horror as his flagship simply came apart. No explosion, no dramatic energy discharge, just structural failure, as the kinetic energy transferred through the ship's frame. What? What did they do? He whispered. Krelnath was already running calculations. Commander, they fired a solid projectile at nearly light speed. Our shields cannot stop physical matter moving at such velocity. How is that possible? I don't know. No species in the galaxy uses kinetic weapons at such speeds. The engineering required, the power consumption, the precision, it should be impossible. But impossible or not, the human ship had just demonstrated that their primitive weapons could destroy the most advanced vessels in the galaxy with the alien flagship drifted in space, its hull split open like a broken egg. Debris floated around the massive vessel as emergency lights flickered inside the damaged sections. Commander Vexatar stared at the destruction in complete shock. Damage. Report, he demanded. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, his engineering officer reported. Main power offline. Life support failing in damaged sections. Estimated casualties. 300 dead or wounded. 300 casualties from a single shot. Vextar had never seen anything like it. In thousands of years of galactic warfare, battles were fought with energy weapons at long range. Ships were disabled, not destroyed. Crews surrendered when their systems failed, not when their vessels were torn apart. On the human ship Indomitable, Captain Jiho watched the results of their warning shot. The alien vessel was badly damaged, but still intact. That was intentional. Dongwu had aimed his railgun to disable rather than destroy. Think they got the message? Tactical Officer Somin asked. Let's find out, Jiho replied. Taehyun, open a channel. The communication screen showed Commander Vextar's face. The alien commander looked shaken but still defiant. Behind him, smoke filled the bridge as damage control teams worked frantically. That was a demonstration, Jiho said calmly. Your ship can still be repaired. Your crew can still go home to their families. But if you continue this attack, I won't. Aim to disable. Vexatar's yellow eyes burned with rage and wounded pride. In his entire military career, no enemy had ever spoken to him with such confidence. No primitive species had ever dared threaten the galactic hegemony. You destroyed my flagship with one shot, he hissed. How? Physics, Jiho replied simply. We accelerated a piece of metal to 10% of light speed and aimed it at your ship. Kinetic energy did the rest. Impossible. No civilization uses such weapons. They're too dangerous to control. Maybe for you, Jiho said, but humans have been throwing rocks at our enemies since we lived in caves. We just got better at it. Vextar cut the transmission and turned to his remaining fleet. 11 ships still surrounded the human vessel. His flagship was damaged but not destroyed. He still had overwhelming numerical superiority. All ships, he ordered. Target the human vessel and fire everything you have. Destroy them completely. Commander, Science Officer Krelnath interrupted urgently. I strongly advise against— I don't care about your advice, Vextar roared. They humiliated me. They humiliated the hegemony. I will not let that stand. The 11 remaining alien ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and energy torpedoes converged on the Indomitable from all directions. The combined firepower lit up space like a small star. When the energy barrage ended, the human ship was still there. Its armor glowed red-hot from absorbed energy, but its structure remained intact. Scorch marks covered its hull, but no major damage was visible. Status report, Captain Jiho requested. Hull temperature critical but cooling, Chief Engineer Hiron reported. Armor integrity at 80%. Shield generators running hot but functional. Minor damage to external sensors. Can we continue fighting? Absolutely. I can route around the damaged systems. All weapons remain operational. Jiho nodded. The Indomitable had been built to survive exactly this kind of concentrated fire. Human engineers had learned long ago that enemy fleets would always outnumber friendly ships. Every system was designed with redundancy and damage tolerance in mind. Dongwu, she said quietly. They had their warning. Now show them what human weapons can really do. The weapons officer's hands moved across his controls with practiced efficiency. Target selection? All of them. Start with the closest ships and work outward. Understood. Engaging multiple targets. What followed was humanity's introduction to galactic warfare doctrine. The Indomitable did not fight like any ship the aliens had ever encountered. Instead of exchanging long-range energy fire, it accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. They're charging us, one alien captain reported in disbelief. "At this range, we'll destroy them easily." But the human ship was not planning to rely on armor alone. As it closed distance, its point defense systems activated. Hundreds of small railguns began firing continuously, creating a wall of tungsten projectiles between the ship and incoming enemy fire. The alien energy weapons, designed to travel at light speed in straight lines, could not adjust their aim fast enough to avoid the kinetic barriers. Plasma bolts struck the projectiles and dispersed harmlessly. Particle beams were scattered by the dense field of metal fragments. "How are they blocking our shots with primitive projectiles?" an alien weapons officer asked. "They're not blocking them," Krelnath realized with growing horror. "They're using basic physics to disrupt energy weapons. Metal fragments cause plasma to lose coherence. Particle beams scatter when they hit solid matter." The Indomitable continued its charge, getting closer to the alien fleet with each second. At 5,000 kilometers, Dongwu fired his first missile salvo. 12 nuclear-tipped warheads streaked towards 6 different alien vessels. The alien point defense systems tracked the incoming missiles and began firing. Energy beams struck the warheads and did nothing. The missiles continued on their course, their metal casings absorbing the plasma strikes without detonating. "Their missiles aren't exploding," an alien gunner reported. "Because they're not designed to explode when hit by energy weapons," Krelnath explained. "They'll only detonate when they reach their targets or receive the proper detonation signal, the buy." First missile reached an alien cruiser and exploded against its hull. The nuclear warhead created a brief sun in space, vaporizing armor and burning through the ship's superstructure. The vessel split in half, its crew dying instantly. But that was only the beginning. The other missiles struck their targets in rapid succession. Nuclear fire bloomed across the alien formation as ship after ship took direct hits. The aliens' energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and particle beams, offered no protection against nuclear explosions at point-blank range. "Fall back," Vextar ordered desperately. "All ships, retreat to maximum weapons range." But the human ship was not finished. As the aliens tried to withdraw, the Indomitable demonstrated another aspect of human military doctrine: mobility. Its chemical thrusters fired in seemingly random patterns, making the ship's movement completely unpredictable. The alien ships used gravitic drives that bent space to achieve movement. These systems were efficient and smooth, but they followed predictable physics. Computer targeting systems could calculate their trajectory and intercept their course. Human chemical thrusters were crude and inefficient, but they could change direction instantly. The ship could accelerate in one direction, then suddenly fire thrusters to move in a completely different direction. No computer could predict such erratic movement. "I can't get a target lock," an alien weapons officer reported. "Their movement pattern makes no sense." "They're not following any logical flight path," his captain agreed. "How can we hit a target that moves randomly?" While the aliens struggled with targeting, Dongwu was systematically destroying their fleet. His rail guns fired continuously, sending tungsten penetrators through ship after ship. Each shot punched through alien armor like it was made of paper, devastating internal systems and killing crew members. The alien ships tried to return fire, but their energy weapons could not penetrate the Indomitable's armor at close range. The human ship had been designed to fight at distances where enemy fire could not be avoided. Its armor was thick enough to absorb direct hits from the most powerful weapons in human space. "This is impossible," Vextar whispered as he watched his fleet being destroyed. "One ship cannot defeat 12. It violates every principle of space combat." "Unless," Krelnath said quietly, "that one ship was designed by a species that expects to be outnumbered." The science officer was beginning to understand the terrifying truth. Humanity had not developed their technology in peaceful isolation. They had perfected it through constant warfare against other humans. Every system, every weapon, every tactical doctrine had been tested in real combat against opponents who understood war. The result was a military machine optimized for violence. While other species had spent millennia perfecting peaceful technologies, humans had spent the same time perfecting the art of killing. Another alien ship exploded as a railgun shot, tore through its engine compartment. Plasma vented into space as the vessel's power systems failed catastrophically. The crew never had time to escape. "Commander," his communications officer reported, We're receiving surrender requests from 3 ships. They're requesting permission to withdraw. Vexatar looked at the tactical display. Of his original 12 ships, only 4 remained functional. The others were either destroyed or heavily damaged. His flagship was barely operational. The human vessel showed only minor damage despite being outnumbered 12-1. "This is Fleet Admiral Zethkara," a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, Vextar, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. Do not engage the human vessel further. Admiral, if we retreat now, Commander. That's a direct order from Hegemony Command. All surviving ships are to withdraw to the nearest starbase for debriefing." Vextar wanted to argue, but he could see the tactical situation clearly. His fleet was destroyed. His career was over. The surviving alien ships had barely escaped into hyperspace when Captain Jiho made a decision that would shock the galaxy. Instead of returning to Earth to report her victory, she ordered her ship to pursue the fleeing enemies. Tae-hyun did. "You get a track on their hyperspace signatures?" she asked. The communications officer checked his instruments. "Yes, Captain. They're heading toward a system approximately 12 light-years from here. Our computers have identified it as a major military staging area." "Hi, Aaron. Can we follow them?" Chief Engineer Hi Aaron ran quick calculations. "Our hyperspace drive is different from theirs, but yes, we can reach their destination in about 6 hours. Dongwu, ammunition status? Railgun magazines at 60%. Capacity. Nuclear missiles down to 40%. Point defense systems fully stocked," the weapons officer reported. Salman looked concerned. "Captain, are you sure about this?" "They'll be expecting us now. They might have reinforcements waiting." Jiho nodded. "That's exactly why we need to hit them before they can organize a proper response. Earth's military doctrine is clear. Never let a beaten enemy retreat to regroup." This was pure human military thinking, refined through thousands of years of warfare. When an enemy was broken and fleeing, you pursued them until they could no longer fight. Giving them time to recover was giving them time to return stronger. The Indomitable jumped to hyperspace, following the alien fleet's trail. While the ship traveled through the twisted dimensions of faster-than-light space, the crew prepared for their next battle. Medical Officer Nari treated the few injuries from their first engagement, mostly minor burns from overheated consoles, and one broken arm from a crew member thrown against a bulkhead. The aliens would have been shocked to learn that humans considered these trivial wounds. "How are you feeling about our chances?" Nari asked Captain Jiho during a brief medical check. "Confident," Jiho replied. "We've seen their weapons now. We know their tactics. Most importantly, we know they're not prepared to fight a real war." "What do you mean?" "They fight like police, not soldiers. They expect enemies to surrender when faced with superior force. They use minimum necessary violence. They try to disable rather than destroy." Jiho paused. "Humans learned long ago that sometimes you have to be willing to kill your enemies completely." 6 hours later, the Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kethmar system. What they found there exceeded even Jiho's expectations. The system contained not just a military base, but an entire fleet staging area with over 50 alien vessels. "My God," Soman whispered, studying the tactical display. "It's a full battle fleet." "Actually," Dongwu said, examining the ship configurations, "it looks like multiple fleets from different species. I'm seeing at least 6 different ship designs." Tae-hyun was monitoring alien communications. "Captain, they're definitely talking. About us. I'm picking up references to the human threat and emergency response protocols." The alien fleet was indeed preparing for war. News of Commander Vextar's defeat had spread through hegemony space at light speed. Fleet Admiral Zethkara had issued emergency orders to every available ship. The humans had to be stopped before they could threaten more systems. But the aliens were preparing to fight the wrong kind of war. "They're forming up in standard battle formation," Soman observed. "Multiple lines of ships with heavy units in the center and fast escorts on the flanks." "Just like the textbooks teach," Jiho agreed. "Hi, Aaron. Bring all reactors to maximum output. Dongwu, load special ammunition." "Special ammunition?" "The asteroid busters," Jiho clarified. Dongwu smiled grimly as he programmed his weapons systems. The asteroid busters were railgun rounds designed to destroy large space rocks that threatened Earth. They were tungsten rods surrounded by a jacket of depleted uranium for extra mass and density. At relativistic speeds, they could punch through, solid rock like it was air. The alien fleet detected the human ship as soon as it moved toward them. 50 vessels immediately began powering weapons and raising shields. Their formation was textbook perfect. Every ship in its assigned position, every firing angle calculated for maximum effectiveness. "Unknown human vessel," came a transmission from the alien fleet commander. "You are outnumbered 50 to 1. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction." Captain Jiho's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Jiho of the Earth ship Indomitable. We are here to demonstrate why attacking human vessels is a very bad idea." The alien commander was a member of the crystalline Vectari, species named Kristhanar. He had centuries of military experience and had never lost a battle. 50 ships against one seemed like excellent odds. "All units," he ordered, "open fire when the human ship enters maximum weapons range." But the Indomitable was not approaching like a normal warship. Instead of maintaining a safe distance for long-range combat, it accelerated directly toward the center of the alien formation at maximum speed. "They're charging straight at us," one alien captain reported. "At this rate, they'll be in the middle of our formation in 10 minutes. "Impossible," Kristhanar replied. "No ship would attack 50 enemies at close range. It's tactical suicide." "Unless," his science officer suggested, "they want to fight at close range." The aliens opened fire. When the human ship reached what they considered maximum effective range, about 50,000 kilometers, energy beams from 50 different weapons converged on the single target. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small fleet, but once again, the Indomitable survived the impossible. Its armor absorbed the energy strikes while its point defense systems created a protective barrier of kinetic projectiles. The ship continued its charge, getting closer to the alien fleet with each passing second. At 20,000 kilometers, Dongwu fired his first salvo. 6 asteroid buster rounds shot from the ship's main railguns, each one aimed at a different target in the alien formation. The tungsten uranium projectiles traveled at 12% of light speed. At that velocity, they struck their targets. Before the alien ships could even register the attack, 6 heavy cruisers simply disappeared in explosions of vaporized metal and plasma. "What just happened?" Kristhanar demanded. 6 ships destroyed simultaneously," his tactical officer reported in shock. "Kinetic strikes directly to their reactor compartments." "How did they target our reactors so precisely?" "Unknown, but their projectiles punched through our heaviest armor like it wasn't there." The human ship was now inside the alien formation, surrounded by dozens of enemy vessels. But instead of being trapped, the Indomitable seemed to thrive in the chaotic environment. Its unpredictable movement made it nearly impossible to target, while its weapons systematically destroyed ship after ship. Dongwu switched to rapid-fire mode, sending a continuous stream of smaller projectiles into the alien fleet. Each shot was precisely aimed at critical systems, engines, weapons, life support. He did not waste ammunition on random targets. "Their weapons officer is surgically dismantling our fleet," an alien gunner observed with professional respect. "Every shot hits exactly where it will cause maximum damage." The aliens tried to adapt their tactics, but they were fighting an enemy that operated by completely different rules. When they concentrated fire on the human ship, it simply absorbed the damage and kept fighting. When they tried to surround it, the ship used their own formations against them. "They're using our ships as shields," one captain reported in disbelief. "They're maneuvering so that our own crossfire hits our vessels instead of theirs." This was another human innovation, using enemy numbers against them. In space, 50 ships created 50 potential obstacles. An agile ship could use those obstacles to avoid enemy fire while positioning for its own attacks. The Indomitable flew between alien vessels, using their hulls to block incoming energy beams. When alien gunners tried to fire, they risked hitting their own allies. The human ship exploited this hesitation ruthlessly. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" Kristhanar ordered desperately. "We're hitting our own ships!" But stopping the attack only gave the humans more opportunities to strike. Nuclear missiles launched from the Indomitable at point-blank range, detonating against alien hulls before point defense systems could react. The warheads had been modified with penetrating casings that drove deep into enemy armor before exploding. One by one, the alien ships fell. Some were destroyed outright by railgun strikes. Others were crippled by nuclear explosions and left drifting helplessly. A few tried to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by human fire. "This is impossible," Kristnar whispered as he watched his fleet die around him. "One ship cannot defeat 50. It violates every law of space combat." His science officer had been studying the battle data. "Commander, I think I understand what's happening. The humans are not fighting a space battle. They're fighting an atmosphere battle in space. What does that mean? On planets with atmospheres, aircraft fight at close range where maneuverability matters more than firepower. The humans have adapted those tactics to space combat. They're treating our ships like ground targets to be destroyed rather than enemies, to be defeated." It was a terrifying insight. The galaxy had spent millennia developing space combat doctrine based on long-range energy weapons and civilized rules of engagement. Humans had ignored all of that and simply applied their ATM. News of the Kethmar system massacre spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours of Captain Jiho's transmission, every major government had received reports of the battle. 50 of the hegemony's finest warships destroyed by a single human vessel. Not one alien ship had escaped to provide detailed tactical data. The galactic response was immediate and panicked. On the capital world of Nexus Prime, Fleet Admiral Zeth Kara stood before the Emergency Council session. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, their various forms united by a single emotion, fear. "The threat assessment has been updated," she announced to the assembly. "Based on combat data from 2 separate engagements, human military capability far exceeds our initial projections." A delegate from the insectoid hive-rat species clicked its mandibles nervously. "How is this possible? They have one ship. We have thousands." "That one ship has demonstrated the ability to defeat any force we can field," Zeth Kara replied grimly. "Their weapons penetrate our strongest armor. Their tactics exploit weaknesses we didn't know we had. Most importantly, they fight with an intensity we have never encountered." "What do you mean by intensity?" asked the crystalline Vectari representative. "They do not seek to disable enemies or force surrender. They seek complete destruction. Every shot they fire is intended to kill. Every maneuver is designed to maximize damage to their opponents. They fight as if their very survival depends on the total annihilation of their enemies." The chamber fell silent as the delegates processed this information. Galactic warfare had been civilized for millennia. Battles were fought according to established rules. Defeated enemies were allowed to surrender. Civilian populations were protected. War was politics by other means, not total destruction. "Perhaps," suggested the aquatic depth singer ambassador, "we should attempt diplomatic contact. Surely they can be reasoned with." Admiral Zeth Kara activated a holographic display showing the wreckage at Kethmar. They were offered multiple opportunities for peaceful resolution. Instead, they chose to hunt down and kill every survivor. This is not the behavior of a species interested in negotiation. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Jiho was conducting her own analysis of the situation. The ship was returning to Earth for resupply and repairs, but she knew this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. "Tae-hyun, what kind of chatter are you picking up from alien channels?" she asked. "Massive increases in military communications," the communications officer reported. "Fleet movements, emergency council sessions, requests for reinforcements. They're mobilizing everything they have." "Good," Jiho replied. "Fear makes enemies predictable." This was pure human military psychology. For thousands of years, human armies had understood that a frightened enemy made mistakes. Panic led to poor decisions. Desperation caused tactical errors. The key was to maintain pressure until the enemy broke completely. Chief Engineer Hyerin was already working on improvements to their systems based on combat experience. "I can increase reactor output by another 15%, she reported. "The aliens' energy weapons are powerful but predictable. I can optimize our armor configuration to better absorb their specific frequencies." "What about our weapons?" Jiho asked Dongwu. "The railguns performed perfectly," the weapons officer replied. "But I want to modify our ammunition loadout. More armor-piercing rounds, fewer general-purpose projectiles. These aliens build tough ships, but with obvious weak points." "Weak points?" "They centralize critical systems to protect them. But that just means hitting one location can destroy the entire ship. Human designs distribute important systems throughout the vessel to improve survival. Alien designs create single points of failure. It was another example of different design philosophies. Human engineers built ships expecting them to be damaged in combat. Every system had backups and redundancies. Critical functions were spread throughout the vessel so that losing any one section would not cripple the ship. Alien engineers built ships for efficiency and elegance. Critical systems were protected in heavily armored cores, but if those cores were breached, the entire vessel became helpless. They had optimized for normal operations, not combat survival. Medical Officer Nari was studying the alien physiology data collected from the battles. "Captain, I've been analyzing the biological information from our scans. The results are interesting." "How so?" "These species have been at peace for so long that they've lost many combat-related adaptations. Their stress responses are weak. Their pain tolerance is low. Their bodies aren't designed to handle the kind of trauma that combat produces." "You're saying they're physically soft?" "Exactly. Humans evolved as persistence hunters and tribal warriors. Our bodies are built to survive injury, endure pain, and keep fighting even when damaged. These aliens evolved in peaceful societies. They're simply not equipped for real warfare." This was perhaps the most important discovery of all. The galactic species were not just technologically unprepared for human-style warfare. They were biologically unprepared. Millions of years of peaceful evolution had made them physically incapable of matching human endurance and resilience. On Earth, Admiral Minho was briefing the Global Defense Council on the situation developing in space. The room was filled with military leaders from every nation, all united by the understanding that humanity faced its greatest challenge. "Captain Jiho's mission has been a complete success," he reported. "She has demonstrated human military superiority and forced the aliens to show their true capabilities. But this also means they now view us as an existential threat." "What are our options?" asked General Zhang, commander of the Asian Defense Zone. "Limited," Minho replied honestly. "We have one operational warship against potentially thousands of alien vessels. However, our intelligence suggests that quantity may not matter as much as we initially thought." He activated a holographic display showing the battle data from both engagements. "The aliens fight like police, not soldiers. They expect compliance, not resistance. They use minimum necessary force rather than overwhelming firepower. Most importantly, they have no experience fighting an enemy that refuses to surrender." "What does that mean for our strategy?" asked Admiral Chen from the Pacific Fleet. "It means we fight the way humans have always fought. Total commitment to victory regardless of the cost. We use every advantage we have and exploit every weakness they show. We make them so afraid of fighting us that they prefer to negotiate." But unknown to the Earth leadership, the aliens were reaching a very different conclusion. In the emergency session on Nexus Prime, the debate had moved beyond how to fight the humans to whether fighting them was possible at all. "They are apex predators," declared the Hive-Rack delegate. "My species understands predator behavior. These humans do not fight for territory or resources. They fight because fighting is their nature." "Surely you exaggerate," protested the Gentle Harmony Song representative. "No species could be so inherently violent." "Look at the evidence," Fleet Admiral Zeth Kara interjected. "They have perfected weapons designed solely for killing. Their ships are built to survive damage that would destroy our vessels. Their tactics prioritize enemy destruction over their own survival. This is not the behavior of a civilized species. It's the behavior of evolved killers." The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. Every analysis reached the same result. Humanity represented a fundamental threat to galactic civilization. They were not just another species to be absorbed into the hegemony. They were predators in a galaxy of prey. "We have three options," Zeth Kara concluded. "We can attempt to negotiate, knowing they will likely demand terms we cannot accept. We can attempt to contain them in their home system, knowing they will eventually break out. Or we can mobilize everything we have and attempt to destroy them before they can spread." "What do you recommend?" asked the council chairman. "Total war," Zeth Kara replied without hesitation. Gather every ship, every weapon, every soldier in the galaxy, attack their home system with overwhelming force, kill them all before they can kill us. The vote was close, but the motion passed. The galactic hegemony would commit genocide against humanity rather than risk coexistence with apex predators. But they had made one critical error in their planning. They assumed that the Indomitable was humanity's only warship. They had no idea that Earth's shipyards were already constructing dozens more vessels based on the lessons learned from the first encounters. As the aliens began gathering their fleets for the final battle, humanity was preparing to show them what a real war looked like. The galaxy was about to learn that the worst thing you could do to a predator species was threaten their home. Captain Jiho, now approaching Earth's orbital shipyards, smiled grimly as she saw the construction in progress. 24 new warships, in various stages of completion, each one larger and more heavily armed than the Indomitable, each one designed by engineers who now understood exactly what they were building weapons to fight. "Welcome home, Captain," Admiral Minho transmitted from the command station. "How was first contact?" "Educational," Jiho replied. "I think we're going to need bigger guns." "Already working on it," Minho confirmed. "The Titan-class battleships should be ready within 6 months. The question is whether we have that long. Will Mo." 6 months after the Kethmar massacre, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Terran system. Over 3,000 ships from 47 different species floated in perfect formation, their combined firepower enough to crack planets and boil oceans. Fleet Admiral Zethkara stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Galactic Unity, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching battle. Every major civilization had contributed their finest vessels. The crystalline Vectari had sent their planet-killer ships. The insectoid Hivrock had provided their swarm fighters. Even the peaceful Harmony Song had contributed their most advanced vessels. "Final fleet count?" she asked her aide. 3,247 capital ships, he reported. 12,000 fighters and support craft. Combined crew of over 2 million beings. Total firepower equivalent to approximately 1 supernova. Zethkara nodded grimly. It was overkill by any reasonable standard. No single planet could withstand such devastating force. But the humans had proven they were not reasonable opponents. "Intelligence reports on Earth defenses?" she continued. "Difficult to confirm," the intelligence officer admitted. "We've detected construction activity around their planet, but our long-range scans are being jammed. Best estimates suggest they have completed 20 to 30 warships similar to the vessel that destroyed our previous fleets." 30 ships against 3,000, Zethkara mused. "Those should be acceptable odds." But privately, she felt uneasy. Every simulation suggested easy victory, but every simulation had also predicted easy victory in the previous engagements. Somehow, the humans kept defying mathematical probability. On Earth, Admiral Minho stood in the war room deep beneath the Himalayas, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching alien armada. The room was filled with humanity's finest military minds, all focused on the impossible task ahead. "Final status report," he ordered. 24 Titan-class battleships operational, reported Admiral Singh from the shipyards. Each one 3 times the size of the original Indomitable and carrying 10 times the firepower. Crews are trained and ready. Planetary defenses? All orbital platforms online, confirmed General Martinez. 300 gun stations equipped with super-heavy railguns. Nuclear missile silos armed and targeted. Asteroid belt mines activated. Captain Jiho, the hero of humanity's first space battles, stepped forward. She now commanded the flagship Terra's Wrath, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. Her crew consisted of veterans from the earlier engagements, all of them eager for another chance to demonstrate human superiority. "My fleet is ready, Admiral," she reported. "All ships armed with improved weapons based on our combat experience. We've had 6 months to study alien technology and adapt our tactics accordingly." Minho nodded. "Our intelligence suggests they're bringing everything. They have. Over 3,000 capital ships plus support vessels. We're outnumbered roughly 100 to 1. Acceptable odds," Jiho replied calmly, drawing chuckles from the other officers present. But Minho was not joking. Humanity's military doctrine had always assumed they would fight from a position of numerical inferiority. Every tactic, every weapon, Every strategy was designed around the assumption that human forces would be outnumbered and outgunned. Phase 1 begins in 12 hours, he announced. Remember, this is not just a battle for Earth. This is a demonstration. We need to show the galaxy that attacking humanity is not just futile, but suicidal. The battle began not with a massive fleet engagement, but with a single transmission from Captain Jiho to the alien armada. This is Captain Jiho of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. If you continue your advance, we will consider it an act of war and respond accordingly. Admiral Zethkara received the transmission with amazement. A handful of human ships were threatening a fleet of thousands. Either the humans were completely insane, or they possessed capabilities that defied comprehension. "Respond!" she ordered. "Inform them that the galactic hegemony demands their immediate and unconditional surrender. They have 30 minutes to comply before we begin planetary bombardment." "Very well," came Jiho's reply. "You have been warned." What followed next shocked every alien commander in the fleet. Instead of waiting for the enemy to attack, the human ships immediately accelerated toward the alien armada at maximum speed. 24 vessels charging directly at 3,000 enemies. "Are they insane?" asked the Vectari fleet commander. "They cannot possibly expect to win through frontal assault." "Unless," the Hyvarok admiral suggested, "they know something we do not." The first revelation came when the human ships reached weapons range. Instead of the primitive railguns and nuclear missiles the aliens expected, the new vessels opened fire with weapons that made their predecessors look like toys. The Terra's Wrath fired its main gun, a magnetic accelerator cannon that launched projectiles at 15% of light speed. The tungsten osmium penetrator struck the alien flagship's shields and simply ignored them, punching through the energy barrier as if it did not exist. The projectile continued through the ship's armor, core systems, and emerged from the opposite side, leaving a perfectly circular hole through the entire vessel. "Impossible," Zethkara whispered as her flagship died around her. "Our shields should have stopped any kinetic weapon." But human engineers had spent 6 months studying captured alien technology. They had learned that energy shields worked by creating electromagnetic fields to deflect charged particles and plasma. Uncharged metal moving at relativistic speeds simply passed through without interaction. The other human ships demonstrated similar improvements. Nuclear missiles that split into multiple warheads just before impact. Railgun rounds that deployed tungsten shrapnel clouds inside enemy vessels. Energy weapons powered by controlled matter-antimatter reactions. "They've improved everything," an alien science officer reported in disbelief. "Every weapon is more powerful, more accurate, more deadly than before." How is that possible in only 6 months? They must have been studying our technology from their first encounters. Everything they've built is specifically designed to counter our defenses. The aliens tried to overwhelm the human ships with sheer numbers, but quickly discovered another unpleasant surprise. The new human vessels were equipped with point defense systems that could track and destroy hundreds of targets simultaneously. Swarms of alien fighters found themselves flying into walls of kinetic projectiles that shredded their formations. "Our fighters are being massacred," reported the Hyvarak commander. "Their point defense systems are too accurate." "Use the heavy ships," Zethkara ordered from her backup command vessel. "Concentrate all firepower on their flagship." 1,000 energy weapons focused on the Terra's Wrath. The combined plasma barrage lit up space like a small star. When the eyes of the light faded, the human ship was still there, its armor glowing red-hot, but its structure intact. Captain Jiho's response was devastating. Her ship fired a spread of antimatter torpedoes that struck 6 alien dreadnoughts simultaneously. The matter-antimatter explosions created brief holes in reality itself, vaporizing the targeted vessels and damaging dozens of others with pure energy release. "Antimatter weapons," an alien physicist reported with academic fascination, even as his ship died around him. "They're using controlled antimatter reactions as weapons. The energy release is beyond anything in our arsenal." But the humans were not finished demonstrating their technological improvements. As the battle continued, more surprises emerged. Human ships that could cloak themselves from sensors. Missiles that traveled through hyperspace to strike targets. From impossible angles, weapons that fired streams of microscopic black holes. "This is not possible," Zethkara repeated like a mantra. No species develops this quickly. No one improves their technology so dramatically in mere months. Unless, her science advisor suggested, they had already developed the technology and were simply waiting for an excuse to use it. It was a terrifying thought. Perhaps the humans had not been struggling to catch up with galactic technology. Perhaps they had been deliberately using primitive weapons to lull their enemies into false confidence. Perhaps everything the galaxy had seen so far was just humanity holding back. The truth was both simpler and more frightening. Humans had indeed developed all these technologies, but not for war. Antimatter reactors powered their cities. Magnetic accelerators launched cargo into orbit. Nanoscale manufacturing built their electronics. Humanity had simply learned to weaponize their peaceful technologies when threatened. As the battle raged, the aliens made a horrifying discovery. They were not just losing, they were being systematically exterminated. The human ships did not disable enemies or force surrenders. They destroyed everything they encountered with clinical efficiency. "Request permission to withdraw," transmitted one alien captain after watching his escort fleet die around him. "Denied," Zethkara replied. "We cannot let them survive. If these humans spread throughout the galaxy—" She could not finish the thought. A galaxy ruled by apex predators was too terrible to contemplate. But the humans had no intention of ruling the galaxy. They had a simpler goal, making the cost of attacking Earth so high that Ni